Hello everyone, and here is my review of the 50th anniversary of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band Deluxe Edition. I have listened to everything that is in this box set, as well as reading about 60-70% of the book that came with it as well. And here is my review and my thoughts and
What's the matter with you, Philip? Come on.
All right, John, I'm just getting to it. My full review. So I hope you enjoy this, and let's get started. So of course, first of all, the main feature of this is this here, the new stereo mix, as you can see, without the light reflecting on it. And as it comes in this little sleeve here, and of course you get the disc. And yeah, so I've listened to this in its entirety, and Giles Martin, your dad would be very, very proud, because this is absolutely spectacular. I listened to this on my normal stereo system, and I'll just go through track by track. Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, of course, that's what it kicks off with, and it sounds punchy, it sounds more open, it sounds more rocking. You know, I so many times during this album listening through, I had moments of just sitting there rocking out, something like this. So yeah, just the bass, the drums come forward much more in this mix. The guitar that Paul actually plays on this is just much more heavy and rock and roll. And you know, what I love about what Giles Martin and the production team have done on this is that what they've essentially done is they've used the mono original on this album to guide them in remastering and creating this new mix. And what it's done is nothing short of fantastic. It has kept that authenticity of the original mono mix, but brought it forward to the 21st century with balls on. It's just, it's not even that it's just louder, it's just everything is more clear, it's more intense, it's more rhythmic, rocking. It's got the feel of 1967, but it feels like it was made yesterday. At the same time, you get that in equal measure, and I just think the balance of it is fantastic. So I've rambled on enough about the mix itself. With a little help from my friends, again, it just is punchier, it's rockier, the drums come through much more clearly. Ringo just is his singing and the harmonies that go on behind it as well is just it sends chills down your spine. And then, of course, one of my favourite tracks on this whole album, of course, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. Some people have criticised this because it doesn't have as much flang or flange or whatever the special effect is on Lennon's vocals. It's not as prominent in this as it is on the original mono mix. But I don't mind that. I really actually was a massive fan of the mono mix with the flange over the top of his voice. I really like that touch. But I think this helps it keep it up to date and more modern by not having it so much, because that was a very 60s style to have that sort of flange over the voice to give it that weird sort of echoey through your ears effect. So I actually quite like that it's sort of stayed contemporary, but still the mix again just sounds like the mono mix but brought to life. And then we have Getting Better, followed by Fixing a Hole. And again, they just sound much more rockier, they just sound much more clear, and there's little details, although nothing in terms of the balance of the instruments or the vocals or anything has changed significantly because they've tried to stay true to the original. It feels almost like there's things there that you didn't hear before, and it's just a case that things have been brought forward much better than they had been in previous releases. Then She's Leaving Home, which is one of my favourites on here, and the instrumentation on here is superb, and the ending always sends chills down my spine. And the fact that they've played it at the speed that the mono release had and not the slowed down version on the original stereo mix is great. I really, really like that. I'm really happy that they kept it like that, because this is absolutely superb on here. Being for the benefit of Mr. Kite, sounds extraordinary. All the little sounds and quirks and everything going around, just absolutely brilliant. Within You, Without You, not probably my favourite track on this album personally, but it's still, it surrounds you. The instrumentation again surrounds you, and the sort of chilling, almost psychedelic vocals of George Harrison just sound absolutely superb on here. When I'm 64, it just, again, just really, it sounds bright and clean and new, but it is When I'm 64. It's not unrecognisable, the changes, but it's so brilliantly executed. Lovely Rita. The vocals and harmonies on this come through really, really nicely, and again brings this to life. Good Morning just rocks on here. Absolutely rocks on here. And there's some kick drum work going on with Ringo towards the end of the track. It's just thumping and kicking. And again, this album displays what an underrated drummer Ringo Starr is. He is a sensational drummer. He never overdid it. He never went all Keith Moon on a record. He was there to support the band with rhythm and keep the beat, and he does that fantastically well, better than anyone in my opinion. But he has enough versatility in his style that he can create moods and sounds and swings and rhythms and stuff that is just fantastic. And then we get the reprise again, like the opening track of Sgt. Pepper. It rocks. It's got such pounding, 100 miles an hour it feels like, but absolutely superb. But of course the highlight is the final track, A Day in the Life, which absolutely, it sends chills up and down my spine as it is, but now it's just in a different league. It's absolutely incredible. The instrumentation as it rises on both parts of the song.
What's the matter with you, Philip? It's the last verse.
The final chord, the slam of the piano is louder. They have definitely altered the volume level from the original mix, but that is great, because that's just one of the most famous chords in rock music, that bit. It's just instantaneous. You hear that, you know who it's by. And what I love also is that John's harmonising, all that, only not as good.
What's the matter with you, Philip?
In this, what I love is that they, again, have tried to stay true to the mono mix by not spreading the voice across two speakers. It's remained centre, but because it's so beautifully balanced and everything, and there's enough echo and enough, whatever the word may be, on top of his voice, it just makes it sound amazing and powerful and emotive and just fantastic. This is absolutely, for me, the definitive version. It used to be the mono mix, because that is the one the Beatles mixed themselves. It was the one they spent the most time mixing, because that was the common format, was mono. And then, of course, they did the Afterthought stereo, which was released the same time as the mono. But it's very lopsided, it's very unbalanced. There's a lot of vocal coming through, but the music seems to be hidden. But this mix here is now what I would call the definitive mix for me. This has got everything that the mono mix has, but with balls on. And because mono was designed to be one speaker, it always felt a little bit trapped. It always felt a little bit closed in. With this, it's just broken through. It's like it's broken through into a field of flowers, and they're just picking them one by one as much as you want. They're free to pick the flowers. They're free to just,
What's the matter with you, Philip?
whatever awful bloody metaphor you want to use. You can't really describe it. You can only understand it if you hear this. So either through the 2-disc special edition, the box set here, or the vinyl version, you've got to hear the new stereo mix. It is obviously the main reason we've purchased this 50th anniversary edition. Absolutely superb. Second of all, we have the sessions. This is the first sessions disc, but this is disc 2. And again, this is fantastic. This is really, really great because it's brilliant hearing these songs developing unedited, like on the anthologies that came out about 20 years ago or so. And you get things like on this disc, you get different takes of Strawberry Fields Forever, and then you get a stereo mix from 2015 of Strawberry Fields on here as well. And that, again, just like the Sgt. Pepper album, it stayed true to the mono, but with balls on. It's just gone full out. It surrounds you. The instrumentation is so well balanced. The vocals, it just brings new life. And you know, I've always thought why people use that expression. It sounds like I'm hearing the song again for the first time. Now I understand. I totally understand. It is. We know these songs back to front, but it does feel like it's got a new lease of life, like it was made in 2017 rather than made originally 50 years ago. It's superb. Then you get When I'm 64. I really like that. That's one of my favourites because it really shows the sort of the talent of Paul McCartney in that sort of just pumping away on that bass and just those fantastic vocals over the top, and how that song sort of is at the bare bones, but yet it's almost a complete song. It could have been released as it was. It's that good. Then you get instrumentations and vocal overdubs and speech of Penny Lane, and then you get Penny Lane, the 2017 stereo mix, and again, absolutely fantastic. Best way to hear Penny Lane again. Then you get take 1 and 2 of Day in the Life, and then the orchestra overdub, the hummed last chord, which I've heard that apparently that was originally going to be at the end of the album, them all humming that chord. Whether that was how they were going to do it, or they were just humming for practice so they got the idea for what they would eventually do at the end of the track, I don't know for sure, but it sounds quite good when they all get together and they all hum it at once. It does actually sound quite close to the actual final chord that you hear on the song. And then one of my favourites again is hearing Paul and the rest of them in the studio all trying to in sync play the final chord that you hear at Day in the Life, and you actually hear the final chord and you hear all the little slight missteps, slightly out of time, all of that. It's great. And then you get Sgt. Pepper instrumental, take 9, Good Morning, instrumental, and then take 8 of Good Morning. And again, it's just really great because you get to hear how these songs started out and realise how many layers and how many overdubs and how much production value you got in just a single Beatles track. It's just absolutely superb to hear. I recommend listening to this disc and disc 3 and then listening to the Sgt. Pepper album, just because it feels like you're listening to the progression of the album and then you hear the finished article. I have listened to these a couple of times and I think that's one of the nicer ways. And then you get CD 3, again, really nice cover. I really like these alternative artworks. And again, Fixing a Hole, that's quite interesting. Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite, different takes and speech and all the rest of it. Lovely Rita is another one that sounds really nice, hearing that in its sort of early stages. Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, of course, that's great to hear. And Getting Better, Within You, Without You. Listening to Within You, Without You, the Indian instrumentation and George coaching the musicians. It's really good because the two takes that you actually hear, I believe from listening to them closely, that they are the actual takes that are used in the final cut. It's just they haven't been put together on layers yet, so that's really interesting. Of course, no vocals as such. She's Leaving Home, the 2 instrumentation versions on here, absolutely gorgeous. Again, that could stand alone as a purely instrumental track and it would have still been fantastic. But with the fantastic lyrics and as well as a very underrated Paul McCartney singing on top in the final cut, because I believe he's a very underrated singer. She's Leaving Home, the instrumentations on here are fantastic. With a little help from my friends, that's got a sort of nice little punchy instrumentation and take to it. and the reprise at the end of this. Really, really nice. Yeah, some people would think that these two discs here are just sort of filler for the collection, just so that they can bump up the price. I personally don't see that. I think these are really, really good, and really happy to have them as part of this collection. And then the final CD is this one, which I really like, that alternative art design. That's one that they may have gone with. And this is the original mono mix plus bonus tracks featuring the 2 single tracks, the double A side, Strawberry Fields Forever, Penny Lane. You also get the first mono mix of A Day in the Life, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, mono mix number 11, She's Leaving Home, the first mono mix, and Penny Lane, the Capitol Records mono US promo mix. Again, this one, not that it's surplus to requirements, because if you don't have the mono box set that came out in 2009, or you don't have the vinyl or anything, and you wanted to hear the original mono, and if you wanted to hear the original mono mix, you get this part of the collection. So this is fantastic, and I've tried to listen to one song from the original mono mix and then listen to the same track from the newly remastered stereo mix, and when you compare them side by side, they sound very similar in the production value, obviously, because they've tried to keep them similar, but again, this one just stands out. But it's really nice to hear, and there are a couple of subtle differences, obviously. Like I said, the effects on John's voice in songs like Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, and Ringo on With a Little Help from My Friends, and of course the last piano chord on A Day in the Life is not as strong on here as it is. It's been amplified more on the remix. But yeah, the mono version is great, but for me the highlight is hearing the alternative mono mixes of A Day in the Life, Lucy in the Sky, She's Leaving Home, and Penny Lane. They're very nice, nothing spectacular, but it is really nice to have those as part of the collection. But the mono mix is, of course, the original, so it is brilliant. It is how the Beatles originally intended it to sound. And had the new mix not come out, this would have been the one I would always listen to, because that is the definitive mix, until we got the new stereo, which absolutely 10 out of 10 this is. The whole collection gets a 10 out of 10 for me. Now, I'm not going to talk about the DVD so much, because what's on the DVD is on the Blu-ray, and obviously this does have a 5.1 surround sound version. I said on my unboxing that it didn't have an authentic one. It does, it just doesn't have a Blu-ray 5.1 high definition surround sound version. But other than that, they're exactly the same, just one's Blu-ray and one's DVD. So you get the whole album, plus Strawberry Fields Forever and Penny Lane on here, with a sort of visual menu as such on there as you listen to it. And the 5.1 sounds also spectacular. I have listened to it on surround sound system, and it does sound really fantastic, and that they've kept the vocals predominantly in the centre, which is where it should be, and the surround sound that you hear really works well, because it's the instruments I would expect to hear coming from behind that come through, rather than having the ones that should be sort of centre in the front. 3 speakers are coming out behind. That would sound really unbalanced and stuff. But a beautiful 5.1. Obviously the stereo is the one I'll listen to the most, but if I want to kick back and just have a complete live, as such, a live experience, the 5.1, it's absolutely fantastic. And of course you get the making of Sgt. Pepper. It's a good little documentary, but it's containing information pretty much that we've heard a million times before. If you've seen the Beatles anthology documentary, which is of course the definitive documentary to see of the Beatles, you'll know most of the stuff that crops up in this. But it's a nice touch to have, and it's nice to have different interview footage used, rather than them rehashing the anthology interviews like they did on the stereo remastered box set, where you get the mini documentaries, which were essentially just clips taken from the interviews used for the anthology. So it's nice to have a different take. And then of course you get promotional films, A Day in the Life, Strawberry Fields Forever and Penny Lane on Blu-ray. I've got the +1 DVD CD collector's box set that came out a year or two ago, and they look fantastic, but I bought it on DVD, so to have these 3 videos on Blu-ray just look even better and stronger and clearer. And Penny Lane always looked a bit washed out and a bit smudgy, and it looks so clean and crisp, and the detail in all 3 videos is spectacular. And it's great to have that as part of this collection. I think that's a really nice touch as well. And to review the book which is in here, I'm not going to get it out now, but the book is really informative, and because of the book, that's kind of what leaves this documentary a little bit surplus to requirements as well in a way. But it's nice to have a visual documentation as well as one to read, because I'm not an overly avid reader. But with this, the pictures, the notes, the letters, the news clippets, the quotes, and everything's a really informative book. Really, really nice. And yeah, it's just a joy to read that along with the songs as you're hearing them. So yeah, the whole box set gets a 10 out of 10. It's absolutely fantastic. Whether you purchase the 2-disc set or the vinyl, or you want to splash out and get this box set, I absolutely recommend, one way or another, that you invest your time and money, your hard-earned cash, and splash out once again for the Beatles. It's worth it. It's Sgt. Pepper and his Lonely Hearts Club Band. So yeah, fantastic box set. I'm really happy to have this, and this will obviously become a collector's item over time, because this is the sort of limited edition version, and that 3D holographic cover is really, really nice. And let's see if you can see it a bit clearer this time. No, it just doesn't pick it up quite so well on the camera. So there we go. I hope you enjoyed this video, and don't forget, like, subscribe, share and comment, and I will see you folks on the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
What's the matter with you, Philip?